How are you, Councilman Mitchell? Sorry, didn't realize I was on mute.
That's all right. Well, we can get started. Right now, the time is 3:02, and we can go ahead and get started. I would like to call the Community Development Committee meeting to order. The time is 3:02. Today is Thursday. What happened to my agenda? There it is. Okay, the first thing we have up is invocation. We can bow our head for a moment of silence, a meditation. Amen. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Next, we have public participation. I think we have one person signed up to speak, and I'm going to give that individual 2 minutes.
That is correct. I have Anthony G. Bryan signed up to speak today.
Okay, 2 minutes.
That's our new security. Sorry.
Mr. Bryan, are you here with us?
I'll get back with you.
I don't hear anything. I know he also sent something in well, we're gonna move right along.
Here, one sec. Let me check to be sure.
Okay.
Mr. Bryan, if you're with us, you can speak for 2 minutes. You just have to press *6 on your phone.
I don't know if he's here or not.
Yeah, I guess not. Sorry about that.
Well, anyone, if you have the information, you can read the information that he sent in.
That's just bullshit, dog.
Oh, there he is.
We can hear you now.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello? Oh, you
Yeah,
can
we
hear
got
me
you.
now. Okay, I don't know how this works. Okay, at the end of the day, I'm here for 2 minutes. I heard a mute call from the chairman. I want to be very specific about what I'm here for. I heard the chairman's position regarding my speech. So I want to be very specific about what I'm here for. I submitted to you a document of documents of the August 20th meeting that you had with the Planning Commission, with the Community Development Committee, and with the others regarding the Ports Authority Union Pier. Secondly, Mr. Marino, Ben Navarro, is going to purchase the property at 65 acres. I was at the Ports Authority meeting. Okay, they gave $9 million of low development, and he bought the property. Okay, so the question becomes, is the Ports Authority going to uphold the obligation that they have to the city of Charleston as far as community development projects, housing, whatever? I was there. Lastly, Ben Navarro was connected to the school district as well. So at the end of the day, as the school district being used in indirect initiatives against people as far as children's concerned. Okay, so I want to make sure that's on the table as well through Community Development Housing Authority as well. And are you providing appropriate notice to the public regarding federal law in terms of the FBI involved with the police department and housing authorities and arresting poor black children and 69% dropout rates in our community? So I want to be very clear. The Community Development Committees do a whole lot more than they're doing right now. I heard the chair's position. I heard your position, and you don't like my speech. That's what I heard. I respect that. I respect that. You don't like I live in your district. I live in District 4, and you don't respect my speech? And I couldn't get on this thing at all? This is disrespectful. You have an in-person meeting from now on. In-person meeting. No more Zoom. The pandemic's over. In person. Have a nice evening.
Amen to that. Thank you very much, Mr. Bryant. We'll move right on to the approval of the minutes, January 18th, 2024. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Okay, was moving second. All Vote by favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Ayes have it. We don't have any old business, so we'll go right down into new business. The first item is the authorization for the mayor to execute a joint use agreement with Charleston County School District related to Mitchell Elementary School playground.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm going to share my screen real quick just so you all can see what we're actually talking about. Let me know when you can see this.
We can see it, Julia.
Okay, thank you. All right, so here's an aerial. We've got Julian Elementary or Mitchell Elementary School right here. This is the area where the school uses, they use this area for a playground. Historically, there's been some issues with people on the basketball court and the swing set area here that have been harassing the teachers and the children. So the school district has approached us about a joint use agreement whereby they have exclusive use of this particular area where this 200-foot line is on the playground, so they can keep people out when the children are on the playground. And so that's what's before you today. It's good through 2038 actually, and it gives them the opportunity to have exclusive use Monday through Friday, 7:15 through 6 p.m. during the calendar school year. And I think we have some people from the school district on this call if you have any questions, but we recommend approval.
Here, let me ask one question.
Yes, sir.
Is this going to give us a problem because it's a public park or public playground for the community?
So thank you for the question, Councilman. Actually, no, this is why. So through the joint use agreement, that gives them the ability to keep people off certain areas of the playground. And they agreed to this line here so that I think the question was, well, what if kids want to come in there and play on the basketball court and the swing set? It gives them the ability to use this section of the playground. So it's not completely cutting off the entire park, but it gives the school the right to keep people away from the perimeter closest to the children.
Yeah.
At least that's the school district's position.
Right. I just don't want to come back and bite us because people start complaining that it's a public park and it's for the city, and all of a sudden we're cutting them off for the use of the park. They was using this park a long time, I know. And right now, since it's, this area now is have been included into the district I represent now. So I just want to make sure, because they might be coming to me. So I just want to make sure, because I know we had some problems before with various park that we were supposed to own at one time, and we got all messed up with it, you know. So this is why I'm want to make sure that it's not going to someone going to come back and say it's a public park, that we are stopping them from coming to use the whole park when it's a public park, the city park. So that's just my take on it a little bit. I understand the school. And I know this kids need something to have a place for safetyness when they come into play, but I just want to make sure of that part of it, you know.
Can I get some, if somebody from the school board is on, could I get some background on, I mean, I'm a little alarmed by the kids and teachers are being harassed. Like that might be something we need to have law enforcement look into.
Yeah, there was.
Is anybody from the school board on that could give us a little bit more insight on what's happening?
I was told that Steve Kugelman from is a facility use officer from the school board should be on this call. I don't see anybody on here from that.
Julia, if you could just get some more color on that, I think it'd be
Sure.
important. Again, you know, having the barrier there and the ability to enforce, you know, is one thing, but if somebody is harassing a teacher, I don't think they're going to abide by that necessarily. And so want to make sure that we are addressing the problem, you know, if necessary with law enforcement.
Understood. I think one of the, and sorry, Councilwoman Parker, I just want to answer this question about the school resources officers that were over there at the school. They're the ones that raised this issue, that when they try to keep people away from the teachers and the children, they're getting a lot of pushback that this is a public park, we can be here if we want to. And so that's why they've asked for this agreement, to give them a little more teeth to keep people out of a certain area.
See. That's what I was alluding to. So we're going to have to try to find some mechanisms to mirror how we can deal with it. I don't know yet. You know.
Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Parker has her hand up.
Oh, okay, Councilman Parker. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Patrick. So yeah, thank you, Councilmember Mitchell, for saying that, because I wasn't sure whose district this was in, because I wasn't sure how the public would feel. So two, and Mr. Mayor, I feel the same way. I mean, this sounds like a police issue. First of all, I hope that they've been called in these scenarios if there are children and kids out there. But my third item, you know, I've been dealing a lot this week with some of these joint use agreements, and 2038, you know, I absolutely want these children to use this park safely. I mean, that's what our parks are here for. But these agreements between the city, you know, 14 years, why would a 14-year term be necessary in a situation like this? Why couldn't we look at a shorter term to see how it goes? Like this is, I mean, if this were my district, it's not, so I'll go with your guide here, Councilmember Mitchell, but 14 years seems like a long term. So was this suggested, or is this what they want? You know, I don't know. Do we have any other, sorry, one more question. Do we have any other agreements like this in the city with the district on public parks? Fishburne, I think, would be a great example. I'm not sure what the agreement there is, but any other parks like this?
I think at my knowledge, I think the one that we have that is not open right now would be the one on Columbus Street, where the high school is going to be placed, the early college is going to be placed, and that's the one that over on the east side, if you may, and it's going to be a joint venture there that the community will be able to use it. I think it's after 5 o'clock. I believe it's after 5 o'clock, you know, and the kids will be able to use it during the time they're in school, but after 5, it's turned over to the community. I think it's my recollection. I think that's the way it works. But like I said, Mitchell Park, and like this is my first time with this district, but I wasn't aware of it until today, till I read the agenda today, you know, a couple of days ago. I wasn't aware of this at all. So it's kind of hitting me, but I just want to make sure that we don't have this to come back to bite us, even if we do it. And I don't want to cause any problems, more problems if it's going to do that too. So it's a very touchy situation. And with the long period of time that they're talking about, that's a long time, you know.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Councilman Mitchell. So we do have similar agreements, Councilwoman Parker. We've got one with the Gilliard Lawn with Buste Academy. We also have one for the Burke Fields. Hampstead Park is the one that you're referring to, Councilman Mitchell.
Right.
We have a joint use agreement with the school district there. We can certainly, and just to full transparency, this has been kind of discussed for about 2 years now. So that's probably why the date's a little wonky, but we can certainly talk to them about a shorter term to just see if this works. Because, you know,
Well,
I mean, we can.
Julia, is it revocable? I mean, it can either party terminate the agreement, or are we locked into this, to Councilman Parker's? I mean, I would, if there's no out for us, I would say we do a annual renewal, and if we don't give notice, then it's automatically renewed or something to that effect.
Sure, we can certainly do that, and we can we can insert provisions in there for termination for convenience and see what they say. I don't think there'd be any pushback because they're coming to us asking for assistance to try and help handle these people in the park. So I'm happy
Mr.
to.
Chairman, I would propose we move forward with this as amended on an annual basis that could be renewed. That would be renewed automatically.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would also ask that you reach out to the neighborhood association, wherever, which one it is, if it's West Side or whomever, to let them know that what's going on, so they wouldn't come back to me just to inform them. You know, because normally most of the time if things come, I make sure that it goes through the neighborhood association first, because when I go there, they'll be hitting me and I'll be blind to the fact to myself, you know, and I don't like to be blind, you know, blind and don't know what's going on. So I would agree with that portion of it on an annual basis, in a year at a time. That's what I would go with. I wouldn't go with that long period of time. I don't agree with that one at all right now. So that's a motion that the mayor's making. Have a second? Okay, it was moving second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Just for discussion, Councilmember Chairman, I do want to, just for council report, I would love to hear your perspective as long as the community is okay with this.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get with that. Thank you. So all in favor by saying aye, the ayes have it. So we, Julia, you will get back to the school board and let us, and find out the information. Then we'll come back at our next meeting, I guess, at the community development meeting and inform us what took place.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Number 2 is a resolution certifying 610 Rutledge Avenue as an abandoned building. And you also have a resolution, the same thing on item number 3 and item number 4.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. It's kind of a Julia show today for you. Let's start with, okay, so for those of you who are new to this process, Mayor, I'm not sure if you've ever dealt with these tax credits before, but so there's a state law that was passed in 2013 that allows for those who rehabilitate abandoned buildings to get a tax credit. And part of the process is that they come to the city and seek a resolution from the city that it satisfies the requirements that it's been abandoned for a certain period of time, over 66%, in order for them to take this to the state and qualify for the tax credit. So we have one applicant, 3 applications, and I'm going to show you the first one, which was 610 Rutledge. This is an aerial of the track right here. It's got one residential home on it here, and then a little neat little commercial piece here. And Councilman Mitchell, I think all of these are in your district.
Correct. Not on, yeah, but the new redistricting, yeah, we have it. I have it all. That house is on Rutledge Avenue, and I knew the house very well because you know, we used to live right across the street from it for years, 20 years. And I know the gentleman used to stay there, and I think he passed away. So the house is sitting there, and I don't know what was the I thought the family member had it. I don't know what happened to it, you know.
Okay, well, the site is approximately 0.115 of an acre. It contains 2 stories, two buildings, 1 story each. The intent is to, the existing residential structure is about 1,084 square feet. And then this commercial structure here is 331 square feet. The taxpayer intends to keep 872 square feet of the residential and enlarge the remainder to a 2,766 square foot residential structure here. And they're going to keep and rehabilitate the commercial structure. So based upon, sorry?
Go ahead, Julie. I asked afterwards.
Okay. So based upon the application and the exhibits, we do believe that this does satisfy, here we go. Here's a, well, not that, but let me get it right side up. Here's the rendering of what they intend to do. Add on to the residential structure, keep the facade, the front facade, and bear in mind that all of these need to go through the BAR and permitting process. So this is literally just for the resolution to get the classification that it does satisfy the requirement for the tax credit. So based on the information they've provided for 610 Rutledge, we do believe that this does satisfy the statutory requirements. And I believe there is someone online from the applicant's office here to answer any questions if you have anything specific to ask them about their plans.
The only question I would ask, have they went before the neighborhood association to advise them? Even if they can't do anything about it, just to advise them what they're planning on doing.
Is anyone on the line from the actual applicant's office here to answer that question? I don't believe they have yet because this is so preliminary at this point. I would hope they do that.
I think, Chairman, I'm pretty familiar with these.
I am on the line, by the way, if you would like for me to answer that question to the best I can. This is Robert Lewis. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I really, frankly, don't know if they've gone before the community association or not. You know, our law firm has just worked on the tax credits. I believe that this is Rutledge, has gone before BAR. So that has gone through that process. I'm not sure the other 2 have.
Yeah, because the reason why I'm saying that, you know, we're making these changes and we're doing it. I don't have a, you know, big problem with a lot of changes to be made, but I just want to make sure that when you go before the neighborhood association, they're aware of these things, because see, a lot of times people see these things, but The council member's the one that's going to get beat up afterwards, because when they come and question us about these things and we don't know anything about it, and I can say, well, I don't know anything about it at all. And how you don't know? You know, so one of these things, that's why I always advise people just to go and inform the neighborhood association. Even if the neighborhood association can't stop it because it has to go before the BAR and all have to get approved through the BAR. But just for the information purposes, I advise and ask all these, anyone that's doing anything in the district I represent and the developer and anything to go before the neighborhood association before I chime on anything like that. And I was doing that all these years, so that's the way I always run it, and that's where they know that I do things that way. You know, for transparency and things like that. That's the best way to do it, and you don't get into all these problems later on. And like I know the area, like I said, I know the area very well because I lived right across the street from there for almost 15 years. And because the store right next door to it, to the house, my brother-in-law had owned that store there for years and years before he sold it. So just the idea of just having the community knowing what's happening, you know, even with the neighbors there knowing what's happening. And those are things that we have to get back into, let the people around it knowing exactly what is intending and going there, even if it doesn't happen. So these things that we have to get back into, letting people know what's going on.
Yes, sir. I understand. I can say that we, as part of the process, we always get affidavits from either the previous owner or neighborhood members that live nearby. And if I'm not mistaken on this one, I think we had got 5 or 6 affidavits from adjacent owners about the process and about the vacancy of that. But your comments are well taken, and I'll convey that to my client.
Thank you. Thank you. Because see, they would take that to the association, let them know that the neighbors don't have a problem with it. And then, so they'll probably, you know, give the consent, you know, write a letter for you, even to go before the BAR in any case scenario. That would help you along the way also, because they say that no one have any problem with it. You see what's happening, you see. Okay. That's all I want to say on that particular part.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Mayor, you have something?
No, I was going to say I move for passage on this.
Okay, the mayor have made a motion that we approve
Second.
the resolution coming up in 610 Routledge Avenue. Questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Ayes have it. Now we go number 3, certifying Lee Street, which is also in the district I represent.
It's a Councilman Mitchell show as well, sir. So
Yeah.
actually, these next two are kind of taken together in the sense that, yeah, it's a corner lot. So
right.
Nassau's here. This is 190 Nassau here. There's a single family structure back here. And then on 68.5 Lee Street, we've got 2 smaller commercial structures that total about 842 square feet. Here's a picture of the street scene with the 2 commercial structures. So this is 68.5 Lee Street.
Correct.
Okay, the plan for this one. Right now we've got, here's the current rendering as it sits. We've got commercial along Lee Street, and then 190 is this large house back here. The plan is to take a portion of this front residential dwelling unit and build 2 separate structures in the back half, take down the 2 commercial pieces, and build an 842 square foot commercial piece on the corner. And again, they have submitted the package with the affidavit showing that all 3, well, the residential structure in the back and the 2 commercial pieces have remained uninhabited and abandoned the past 5 years. And along with the remaining package, they have satisfied the terms for the resolution. So we would recommend approval. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Okay, I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
This came before the neighborhood association. They did come before the neighborhood association on the east side, and they explained to them exactly what they are planning on doing. And I told them I supported it because biggest problem they had was the parking. And they have changed, I think they changed the rendition that they're gonna have all the parking that's just gonna be on site. They were, the neighborhood association and the community was really adamant about parking, because if you go down Lee Street And at night, you can count it, they have over 350 cars out there at night in that area from Lee Street, Nassau Street. I count them. I go out there and I count them. So this is what's happening in that area, because you have the building that's the student housing on the corner of Lee and Meeting Street. They have a parking garage, but most of the time the people don't park in the parking garage because on the street is free parking. So this is what's happening in that particular area. So they wanted to make sure, because the residents around there want to make sure that they couldn't park, they can't park. So this is what came up in the neighborhood association, and they told them they have to go before the BAR. But otherwise, as long as they have the parking on site, what they said they was going to do, and I think they didn't have a big problem with that portion of it, I guess.
All right, well, I'll move for passage on it. And just for point of clarity though, Julia, while it's good to get the intelligence on what they are planning on doing for the purposes of this vote, it really isn't related to their specific plan, more so that the properties qualify as abandoned. They're going to have to go through the whole process, right, in terms of their ultimate development plan, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Correct.
But I think to Chairman Mitchell's, it's good to understand this so that we can at least make an informed decision. So I move for passage.
Okay. Well, you heard the motion from the mayor that he move approval.
Second.
All in favor, you haven't any question? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposes? Ayes have it. So we're moving right along down to the last presentation by the City of Charleston Housing Authority Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy, and that's going to be on Morrison Station.
Councilmember Mitchell, you actually have one more after that, sir. So
Oh.
it's two more. Yes, sir.
Oh, I got two more. Oh, I'm moving pretty fast, huh? So we did a presentation by the Housing Authority first, so I have two more before that.
No, sir. Presentation by the Housing Authority is the appropriate item at this time.
All righty, because I don't have any more on my agenda, so I must I don't have the latest agenda, I guess.
It's on the next page, I think.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna
So Councilmember Mitchell, we do have Art Milligan on the Zoom with us this afternoon. In addition, we have the proposed development team, Jordan Jones, and Daryl Jones as well, on the call as well. Mr. Milligan, did you have any comments before the presentation was made?
We just want to thank you for taking the time to hear our presentation. We're trying to make improvements on the particular properties that Mr. Jones and Mr. Jones will talk about briefly. Pete Sherman is our development manager, our development director. Pete, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon. Just a little background. So I've been with the Housing Authority since '05. Most of that time as the CFO. Don Cameron created the Director of Development position about 3 years ago, so I have moved over to that position. The public housing units we're talking about are on the east side, mostly Cooper River Courts on America Street between Lee and Stewart. Landmark there is Sanders Clyde, so it's the units surrounding Sanders Clyde. Cooper River Courts was built in the 60s, and then the original Meade Street Manor on the west side of America Street was in the early 40s. So we put out an RFP for a development partner last summer, and we got a lot of good, strong responses and put together an evaluation committee, and Integral Development out of Atlanta rose to the top. So we are looking forward to this project and working with Integral, and with that, I will pass it on to Jordan Jones from Integral.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chairman, Mr. Mayor, and City Council and City staff. Again, Jordan Jones with Integral, and I think my colleague Daryl is going to kick things off for us. while I pull up the presentation.
Thank you, Jordan. Name's Daryl Jones. Thank you for allowing us to present this today. We appreciate the time. As Pete and Art mentioned, we were selected as a development partner for the redevelopment of Cooper River Courts. We want to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about us, and then we want to talk about our vision for the project. So next slide, please, Jordan. So I do want to emphasize at this point, it is a vision, and Councilman Mitchell, we think heard you loud and clear. We don't like to move too quickly without involving resident stakeholders. So we've actually started resident meetings, which actually started last month. We think it's very important, since the outcome of this is to impact their lives, to include them in the process. So we'll have several meetings with the residents. Again, we had first meeting last month with them, and went extremely well. And we plan to have others also. Also, just want to point out, as a partner of the Housing Authority, it's really important that we're also looking at this through the lens of the Housing Authority. And the way it'll be developed is through a long-term ground lease, meaning that the improvements will eventually go back to the Housing Authority, and then there'll be significant financial participation from the Housing Authority in the vertical developments in each phase of the vertical developments. We tried to solve for several things here. And one, in thinking about the Housing Authority, thinking about the residents and how this could be a holistic redevelopment, not just thinking about the real estate, but the impact, to lives. But then also thinking about, at that time last summer, there were a lot of issues with the tax credit agency and SE Housing, and how can we do this in such a way that for this critical need, it does not get caught up in waiting for tax credit. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Next slide, please, Jordan. So with that, just want to talk a little bit about us and things that, we think are differentiators. One is our team. We've got, we think great local knowledge with LS3P, Seaman Whiteside, and we're trying to match that with best practices around the country. When it comes to mixed income, we think we are one of the premier developers. We actually did the very first mixed income redevelopment of a public housing community in the country about 30 years ago. Also important to us is that we are very focused on having minority-owned enterprises as part of the team, trying to bring along with us and develop emerging developers and their talent, and trying to be inclusive as well with the residents as well, from a offering opportunities for them also as a part of this. Next slide, Stuart. So just I want to show you our senior leadership team. And we've been in business now 31 years. And we've got a mix of old, new, all different backgrounds. We think that's very important. Many of us have been in the industry a very long time, but I think it's also important to note of the most senior members of this team, I'll say the top half, we've got an average of 24 years experience at Integral together. So we've been doing this a long time together. I'm obviously of the old guard. Jordan is of the younger guard, and we think it takes all of that as part of the right mix to bring the best ideas. Next slide, please. Innovation is something that we pride ourselves on. This mixed income model didn't exist. Our founder, Egbert Perry, it was but a glimmer in his eye, and he had the idea of how do you mix incomes and have a very strong community as an outcome. What happened a lot of time before, many times when redevelopments took place, those who lived there did not benefit from it. And we try to be very intentional in making sure that they do benefit. We like to think of our mixed income models, what we call the airline or airplane model. And when I say that, if you think about it, if I were to buy an airline ticket today, because I'm not a good planner for something I'm gonna fly out tomorrow, it might cost me close to $1,000. My colleague Jordan was a lot more thoughtful. He got his a month ago, and he only paid $199. Well, when we get on the plane, no one asks us how much we paid. We both get the same top class service. We leave and get there at the same time. And we very much believe the housing should be the same thing. We believe in the highest quality housing, and it should not matter what a individual or a family pays for that housing. So when we develop our communities, they are, we think, the best and best of class, and welcome anyone to come to Atlanta or anywhere else in the country, but certainly in Atlanta, to visit, our communities. Also want to mention the right here, and we sort of pride ourselves in innovation, but one other to mention is that we also birthed this affordable assisted living model. And what that is that currently, if a senior citizen can live independently today, if they are low or moderate income and they can no longer live independently, one of two things typically happen. You either ship them off to a nursing home way before that they're supposed to. If they're really, really lucky, they get to live in a back bedroom of a loving family member who loves them, takes care of them, feeds them, but they still lose a lot of their independence and all the things that they want to do. This affordable assisted living model gives seniors another choice in doing that. And for what would normally cost $5,000 or $6,000 a month, we've come up with a very creative financing strategy to deliver that for about $1,000 a month is what those seniors would pay. So next slide, please. Also, master developer, when we look at developments, we don't just look at a single piece of real estate. We think a lot about how all the pieces have to not only interact with each other, but how it interacts with the surrounding neighborhood. We think about transportation, schools, jobs, safety, all those things are very important. To the left, you see a community, master development community right outside of downtown Atlanta, and to the right is a master development community right outside of downtown Durham. It was a typical African American neighborhood that was split in the early 60s by the interstate. And so we are, with this development, making a big step to pulling that back together and paying tribute to that African American community. There goes the name Tribute Rising. Next slide, please. And also a mixed income experience, talked about that some. We very much believe that the strongest community is a mix of all incomes, whether the financing vehicle is tax credits. So where you have much lower incomes, we always have market rate units in all of our communities. We think that makes them more sustainable over the long haul. And even when it's a conventionally financed and primarily what you might think of as a market rate community, we very much believe in providing attainable housing for those. So that housing that's important for the critical members of any well-functioning society, your teachers, your firefighters, police officers, healthcare workers, and so forth. Next slide. So in that, I'm going to just talk about a few of the highlights. Jordan will go into a lot of the details. But part of our vision is demolishing and replacing all of the units. But in addition to replacing those units, we're going to increase the amount of low-income units by 25% from what's there today. In addition to that, we also plan to have approximately 200 attainable units, or some call workforce housing. We like the term attainable better than that, but that's 80%, 100% AMI or lower. Again, we're not financing the phases with tax credits. It's all conventionally financed in the way we're approaching this. While providing significant income to the housing authority over the first 10 years. And then we're also thinking about things that are unique to Charleston with our engineering team and architect team, and how the project can be built to be more resilient, building above the flood level as well. Next slide. And before I turn it over to Jordan, just want to emphasize, I think everyone knows the severity of the housing crisis in Charleston County. I don't need to quote you any of these stats. You live it every day. In order to address this the right way, you have to increase density. But density for density's sake, we don't think gets it. It has to be thoughtful. Density, you've got to think about how you interface with the neighborhoods around you, as well as a lot of the resiliency and things our engineers have to look at. But doing it in such a way that if you go into any of our units and any of our buildings, you will not be able to tell which ones are market rate and which ones are affordable. In fact, at any given time, they could change. So this also enables us to increase the amount of affordability for those residents. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Jordan Jones, who is our executive that runs our Carolinas region.
Great. Thank you, Daryl. So wanted to walk through first kind of the program table of how we're looking to redevelop Cooper River Courts into Morrison Station. Cooper River Courts today, again, has 286 units on site. It's about a 13-acre site. And we'll be redeveloping it with about 1,100 units. Of those units, about 1/3, or about 358, will be affordable. Each of those 358 units will be receiving a project-based voucher from the Charleston Housing Authority to allow households up to 80% AMI to live in those households. We'll also be developing attainable housing. Attainable for us is 80% AMI to 120% AMI, and about 200 units there, meaning about 50% of all of these units will either be affordable or attainable. So a significant increase, again, in the level of affordability in downtown Charleston. We'll also be developing a variety of different unit types, and specifically just wanted to quickly highlight the micro unit. We are proposing to develop about 10% of the units as micro units. For us, a micro unit is about 350 square feet. Now, we fully recognize that is a very small space, and micro units are not a good fit for the majority of households that live in Charleston. However, for maybe some of your hospitality workers or your teachers, your firefighters, or your nurses who don't spend that much time in their units, you don't have a large family gathering that happens annually, maybe a micro unit is a good fit for them. And again, it's a very attainable unit. But we also recognize a micro unit, 350 square feet, can have some livability challenges in it. And so we've partnered with a group called Ori Living that provides more technology-focused furniture to allow these spaces to live more dynamically, to allow you to get more life out of this in the spaces you're in. And so we'll be bringing them in as our partner from day one to, again, help us provide different levels of unit types and to ensure the livability of each of the individual units. As Joe referenced earlier, kind of this airplane model of ensuring that all units are delivered exactly the same, and we're able to deliver affordability, attainability across every phase and every building and every floor. And so that's what this next diagram shows. Again, affordability and attainability will be involved in each of the phases, particularly in phase one, where we will have the highest amount of affordability and attainability. The roughly 368 units, more than half of those will be income restricted. As part of the solicitation process from the Charleston Housing Authority, we did have to put together a draft master plan. And so that's what's on the screen here. But we do fully recognize we drafted this master plan essentially in a vacuum, right? Just our team and LS3P team. And so this is solely a draft plan, and one we do not plan on submitting formally to the city. This is just the beginning of the process. We are planning on continuing our engagement with existing residents, the East Side community, and other stakeholders in Charleston, to obtain more feedback before we look to finalize this plan later this calendar year. But there are a few quick design principles I did want to highlight as part of this master plan that we think are good planning efforts and that'll likely continue to remain in place as we move forward. The first one is closer to Morrison Drive is where we're going to develop higher density. So these are some taller buildings, and then we will look to step back the density as we move west, closer to Beating Street and deeper into the neighborhood. Another key design principle is we're looking to recreate the urban street grid within the community today. That street grid does not exist today. There are several streets that just dead into each other, and we're looking to recreate that urban street grid. And then lastly, in terms of open space, as you see on the plan, there's a tremendous amount of open space. While we're looking to add density, we're not looking to build on every single piece of the site. And so open space today is about 45% of the overall acreage. On the left-hand side here, these are just showing 5 potential housing typologies that could be developed on the site. But again, none of these are finalized. These are just representative pictures of, again, the different types of housing we could be looking to develop on the site. We are looking at 2 taller podium buildings, one in the reddish color north of the school and one to the south in purple. The one to the north is one we are looking to include an urban grocery store. We've currently set aside about 25,000 square feet of space to recruit a new full-service grocery store to this part of Charleston. And the one in purple, we are having a conversation with community healthcare clinic about providing some space in that building to, again, provide community healthcare services to Charleston. And then again, we could be looking at other walk-up buildings, multi-unit townhomes, and different types of multiplex buildings.
Jordan, can I interrupt for a second?
Please.
The property along Lee Street, I've mentioned this on a few other occasions. That site, have y'all reviewed an Alta survey of that site?
Not yet. That is our plan to order a survey relatively soon to study those parcels a little bit further.
The city has one, and so I'd encourage you to look at that because, as I've pointed out before, in full disclosure, I know the site well because of the cigar factory uses much of that, those existing gravel lots for parking and has a lease. I think a month-to-month or annual lease there. But the pier heads for the old Cooper River Bridge are there, and there's an underground utility easement, the sewer tunnel that comes over from Daniel Island, goes down Lee Street and goes kind of diagonally across it. So you're not going to be able to drive pile or anything in or around that. So it will in all likelihood impact your development plan there. So I just want to make sure that you are aware of that before you spend a lot of design dollars around the Lee Street corridor.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate you raising that. The program we've talked about, roughly 1,100 units, actually does not include that acreage. We recognize that is owned by the city. That's area we have not studied as much yet. And I know it's an area of concern you have raised and something we do plan on digging a little bit into, but we'll be careful.
I wanted to highlight that just again. I don't want to go through a process and have to redesign it to adjust for those subterranean conditions.
Agreed. Thank you for raising that. And then my last slide here is talking about how this will be a phased redevelopment. Phase 1 is in red, is our current thinking about phase 1 along Morrison Drive, with phase 2 in yellow and phase 3 in blue. A critical reason why we're looking to do a phased redevelopment here is to minimize the potential relocation of existing residents. We recognize relocating those residents can be very challenging for those households. We know that the Charleston Housing Authority will be providing services to those residents through a potential relocation in terms of paying for their moving costs, as well as providing them a voucher for a new unit, but still relocating it always brings challenges for households. And so by doing a phased redevelopment, we can look to minimize the number of households that would have to be relocated. Phase one's around 75 to 90 households. And so those households would likely need to relocate off site. Then once phase one is fully built out, those residents return to the site. The residents in phase two could have the option to move into phase one instead of moving off site. So again, we can look to minimize the number of households that have to be relocated off the site. And then same thing with phase three. And so with that, Daryl and I can open it up and see if you all have any questions for us this afternoon.
Okay, anyone have any questions? I can make a comment on the phase one project. The phase one project was the project that I recommended in the beginning because of the fact that on America Street, if you go in that area between Harris and going down to Stewart Street, Stewart Street, it's deplorable. And in the street, America Street itself, you'll see how the water is there and it's trashy and it's nasty and dirty. So when this came up with the community development before, I recommend that they do it in phases. And the first phase they need to work with which was that particular site, because it's a smaller site. And even if we give them the higher density at the time, we were talking about doing higher density, because the HUD office normally said 1-for-1. You have to replace, if you tear down one, you have to replace that one back. So we'll give them higher density that they can go up, with that, and then have the affordability with the mixture of housing and everything there. So my recommendation at the time was to do that area first. And that's what came about that. They said, okay, we'll look at that and doing that as phase one and doing that phase first. And then we'll work going over toward Meeting Street with the second phase. So I just want to throw that out, but this came before us before, and that was the recommendation I gave to the Housing Authority when I met with them, a couple of times. And that's what this came about with the phase one. Councilwoman Parker, I see you have your hands up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Phase one, phase two, phase three, how many stories are each phase?
We have not finalized the design of each of these phases.
Yeah.
We be looking to rezone, particularly along Morrison Drive up to UP, to allow up to 12 stories, which is the height across the street Morrison today. But we have not been underwriting that tall of density on this site. So we've been underwriting closer to about 10 stories.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions? No, thank you all very much for the presentation. I know we were waiting for the presentation to see exactly where we were and what's going on. So
thank you for having us.
Yeah. So
thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. But I was working with this and I'm trying to stay abreast of this. And I mean, if you need me to come to meetings, just to be aware of it, so I can kind of spread it out to the community also, and with the East Side community, just let me know. Mr. Milligan, you have my number, so you know how to reach me, and we'll come over and get with you all. And
that'd be great.
My suggestion.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
All righty. So now we'll move right along. Thank you very much for coming, you all, and explaining to us what's going on. And we have one more presentation and a potential action related to updates regarding Gateway to Housing Initiative. I think Suzanne Young was going to explain that, Executive Director.
Yes, hello, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and that actually, the other presentation was a really good segue into what I want to talk to you about with the crisis for housing. And our solution to help address a lot of the unhoused in Charleston is the Gateway to Housing Initiative. And this is a model that was created out of Nashville, and it's what's called a low barrier housing collective. And what that means is you partner with landlords and property owners, and you have them choose a barrier, which is low credit score, an eviction on your record, previous incarceration. And if they're willing to remove one of those barriers from their application process, then they get a financial incentive to help promote that partnership. And then also they have a case manager that they can work with that will be just one person. And we also have incentives to help with risk mitigation fund in case they're concerned the property is going to get damaged. Then we have a fund to help provide reimbursement for repairs that are done. So it's a centralized property engagement model. And so that means that all the agencies in Charleston County that are like Neighbors Together, a nonprofit that works to help people who have been evicted, who are on the street, to help them find housing, we'll all be able to use this model. And that's why it's called a collective model. And it will be using current inventory, so we don't have to build anything. It's using large apartment complexes. It's also using for folks who have just houses they own. Sorry, my laptop wouldn't do the slideshow. So then you can scale it to large apartments and then also to smaller mom and pops that own houses that they rent out. And so it's a very scalable model, and it can be customized for each community. And the woman that came up with this model worked for City of Nashville. And they were having the same issues we're having with the rents were going up, people were getting evicted. And so she came up with this model, and she has since left City of Nashville, and she is a consultant, and she goes around the country helping communities implement this program. And I'm working with her. Her name is Lizzie Goddard. And so she has done this in large communities and smaller communities, and it has always had a huge impact. When she started it in Nashville, they saw in 6 months, they increased their available housing stock by 68%. And once they got it launched and got their first property partners, then she didn't even have to advertise anymore, because they told other landlords, and people started calling her wanting to participate in the program. And the really, really great thing about it is you have a software program that is called Padmission that has been designed just for this model. And it is an online database. So all the inventory is real time. And so everyone who is trying to find housing at the local agencies can go onto this website and put in whatever area they're looking for housing, if it's West Ashley, North Charleston, and what criteria, what barrier they need reduced, and what size, do they need bedrooms, 3 bedrooms or a studio or whatever, and it's only for rental properties. And then it'll pull up on that platform all the properties that meet that criteria. So it streamlines the process and makes it much more efficient. And then all the agencies that are participating in this get to do it for free. And so they'll have access to the financial incentive, to all the infrastructure that is designed in the program for the partners, with the landlords, all the paperwork we do with that. They have access to all that for free. So it really makes it more equitable. So if someone goes to a smaller nonprofit trying to get assistance with housing, they'll get the same access to this that someone who goes to a larger nonprofit. So it really provides a win-win for everyone, for the unhoused individuals and families, for the social service agencies who are trying to find housing for their clients, and then also for the landlords, because they have a recognized program they can work with, and that will have where all the referrals come through agencies. So the clients and the tenants have been vetted. And so it makes it a much more stable process. And I already have several landlords that are interested in this and are excited about the idea of it. And so I think really for our housing crisis in Charleston, I think this will be a game changer. And I think it will really impact the housing ecosystem here in a positive way. And it's not going to solve the entire problem, but I think it will make a huge dent in it. As so many agencies will be able to participate, and then we can. For now, it'll be just in Charleston County, but I would like to expand it to Dorchester and Berkeley eventually, because Neighbors Together. We serve all 3 counties, so I would like for us to be able to do that eventually. But for now, we're starting with Charleston County, and Neighbors Together will be the backbone agency. We won't own the program. We will just be the administrator, because someone has to make sure all the paperwork is done right, that sending out the incentive checks and all of that. So we will serve in that capacity. But it's not our program, it's for the collective.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Did anyone have any questions? Well, I want to say that, Ms. Young, it's a perfect, and it's a good information that he was giving out, because back when I was working in my previous employment, I did.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for interrupting. I've got to jump on another 4 o'clock, so I just want to let you know I'm dropping off, but I appreciate the presentation.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. We're but finishing now right now anyway. So I just want to give a little background. But anyway, that what you're doing now is something that I did years ago, but it wasn't a stint as you all are doing. I used to contact landlords in the I used to handle the 3 county areas.
Yeah.
I was a certified housing counselor, so. Getting landlord to even have a landlord to accept individual with Section 8 certificate and vouchers, because things was changing and they were saying people was tearing up the places. So I had to go and find landlords that would accept people with Section 8 certificates, although they had background with things on their credit and things like that. So I was going out and doing that in the 3 county areas in Berkeley and Dorchester and Charleston County at the time, but we wasn't giving out any money, so it was a little different during that time. So now with the program that you all are having, with the incentive that you're doing, this might make a big difference with some of the landlords, and might help out a lot, because we need all the help we can when you're dealing with housing, because we have a lot of people who have things on their credit, and as soon as you go there, they'll say, oh, your credit, we have something in your credit, we can't rent to you, we can't do this. But they have kids and they're out there and looking for a place, and they might make mistakes along the way, but you can't hold. Sometimes you hold those things over the person's head forever,
Yes, exactly.
and that's my problem sometimes with a lot of people when they talk about housing. But I thank you for all that information.
No, thank you for the opportunity. And you're right. We see it here in North Charleston all the time, that people their rent gets increased, $500-600, and they can't afford it, and then they get evicted, and then they have an eviction on their record, and so they can't. And so this is a way to address that, and in an equitable way. And so we're very excited about the possibility of what this could do. And I'm just in the stage of raising funds for it, and so so that we can launch it and hopefully start addressing a lot of those needs.
Thank you very much. If I can be of assistance, just give me a call. If I have any information I can kind of relate to you, just let me know.
Oh, I will. Thank you very much. And I have, if anybody has more questions or would like more information about this, I have all kind of handouts and stuff that I can give to anyone. And Gianna has the PowerPoint. So if anybody would like to have the PowerPoint, please let me know.
Thank you very much.
I definitely would.
Yeah.
All righty.
If you have questions, you can just reach out to me at Neighbors Together.
Yeah. Yes, Ms. Johnson.
And so I wanted to say to the members of the City Committee of City Council, it's been approximately 2 years.
Yes.
But we brought to you all about that time a presentation relative to measures to help solve the issue and the challenge of homelessness. This was one of the top 3 measures, and we have allocated funding in our home budget to provide assistance to tenants that live in the city of Charleston who are going through this program. So we will present in another 30 days or so, once Suzanne and her team have had an opportunity to review that contract, a contract to council for that funding that we set aside in our previous budgets to help support an initiative like this, so that we can work toward moving folks from an unsheltered state to a sheltered state.
Correct. I remember some years ago, I just kind of forgot a little bit that we had this came before the community development, and we had approved it. We approved it here on the community development. Okay. Is any other anything else to come before the committee before we adjourn?
No, sir.
Okay.
Those are all of the items.
Thank you very much. Everyone have a
nice
nice day and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Take care.